Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm also Catholic. I didn't bring a clipboard, though. Next time. So, in 2013, I was a junior in college. And for the first time in my life, I would travel outside the North America to South Africa. And I would study abroad for several months. And none of this is relevant to my political background. So you can all take a sigh of relief. This is not a story about politics. But this is a story about my experience there, and one story in particular which happened at the tail end of my visit. But I want to provide some quick context. So I had 3 courses at the University of Cape Town, 2 of which there was a student that caught my eye. And quite frankly, my gaydar was quite off in South Africa. Everyone seemed a little gay to me. But I felt confident about this. So fortunately, I had access to the student portal, so I was able to compare the 2 class rosters, and I narrowed it down to 3 names that were alike, and then I used handy-dandy Facebook. I wasn't in the theater, so I was allowed to use my phone, and I found Sean. And so I ended up messaging Sean, and we ended up going on a date. He was gay. Confirmation, perfect. And I have to say I'm pretty smooth, even though that's a self-assessment. I don't want any feedback tonight. And we ended up going on a date, and we kind of sort of dated through our time there. At the tail end of my visit, I decide, or I actually won this prize to go out to the vineyards in South Africa to do a wine tasting on bike. And of course, I invite Sean, and we go out on this tasting. And part of the way we got there was through commuter rail, and I had traveled several times on commuter rail. Sean, however, hadn't been on the commuter rail since he was very young. I believe his mother said he wasn't allowed to go on there anymore. And so when I said, we have to take the commuter rail to get there, he said, are you sure? Like, there's a lot of petty crime on the commuter rail. I was like, no, this lifelong Mainer, he's been on the commuter rail so many times, it's going to be okay. So we go on the wine tour, imbibe some great South African wines. We also did a brandy tasting with chocolates and coffee. Absolutely amazing. We're very buzzed. We get back on the train to go home, and sure enough, on a very empty cart, this guy sits down across from me, and I don't know if you've been on Amtrak, but it's like the family section sort of seating, and so our knees are almost touching, and I'm like, why is this guy sitting across from me when we have all this room on the train? And so he takes out this radio antenna and starts tapping me on the knee, and Sean leans over and says, "Sir, please stop doing that." And the guy doesn't say anything but gets up and leaves. So I was like, oh, very effective, very good. Must be that South African accent. And so the guy goes to the back of the train, but then returns a few moments later, is sitting back across from me again, and again starts tapping me on the knee with the antenna. In a more firm voice, the guy to my left leans in and says, "He told you to stop. Please stop tapping him on the knee." At that point, the guy decides to stand up, and suddenly he has a knife in front of me. And so I'm being held at knife point. Sean sort of just leaves. The guy, and actually, I have to say, the train came to an actual natural stopping point. So we're actually at a stop at this point. The guy from the left who had leaned in earlier to tell him to stop is now over and wrestling for that knife. And so they're sort of fighting for the knife. My brain is telling me, get the hell off this train, but my body is completely frozen. I am just there. I am not able to move. And partly because I'm concerned for this man who's like a superhero out of nowhere has decided like he's going to take on the safety of my life and fighting for this knife. And as I'm standing there, another man runs up and rips the crucifix that was around my neck off. And I'm pleading with him. I'm asking, please, 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 I'll give you my wallet. I'll give you my credit cards, anything. Just please give me that back. And he's refusing. And so I look over to my right. They're still fighting for this and jockeying for this knife. So I decide it's time to depart. I get off the train, and I walk into what I can only describe as, sort of like an anthill being run over, right? When you have all these ants scrambling for what happened to the hole that they were able to access their home to. I mean, there were people screaming and yelling and speaking in a language I don't understand. And suddenly I see two security officers. Also, I'm yelling for Sean, and he's nowhere to be seen. Two officers come on. We come aboard the train again. The two men are being held down. They take those two gentlemen and myself to a security office, concrete structure, very small, and they strip search them both right in front of me. Different protocol in South Africa versus the United States, and they find nothing. They don't find the crucifix, but they ask me if I want to press charges, and I say, I actually asked the gentleman who stole the crucifix once more, if you have it, I won't press charges, and he says he doesn't have it. So that man held a knife against me. That man stole my crucifix. Meanwhile, there's this big bang at the door of the security checkpoint, and I have no idea what's going on, and I can only think that these people are after me. So I actually look around, and there's a room to my side here, to my right. So I dart into the room, close the door behind me. It's gated, so I can't escape. Unfortunate. And I wait there, and I'm like, heart's pounding. I opened the door again, and it actually turned out that this group of people that were pounding on the door had left. I would find out much later that vigilante justice is pretty big in South Africa. So these two gentlemen actually reflected poorly on the community for doing what they did, and they actually intended to kill them. And so anyway, we end up finally getting to the police station, and actually the police station was like 20 feet away, not too far, and we walked there. And as we're walking there, a local woman has joined us, and she's flirting with me. And it's like the worst time to be flirting with me. And she's commenting on my hairy legs. I'm like, come on. It's amusing, but it's also annoying. And she actually comes with us all the way to the police station. So here I am, just been held at knife point, had my crucifix stolen, and I got this woman hitting on me and talking about my hairy legs. Thank you very much. We get to the police station, interrogating this guy who stole my necklace. He ends up finding it in his shoe. So not the crucifix itself, but the necklace. And so that seems pretty good to me. I was not as upset as I was. I was thinking like, I can melt down the gold, I guess, and turn it back into a crucifix. I have no idea. But anyway, Sean's friend, Sean is at the police station. And so when I get there, Sean is like, why did you not run with me? I tapped you on the knee, I pulled you, and you didn't move. And honestly, I had no idea that he did any of this. I was just so frozen. And so Sean calls his friend. His friend picks us up. We go back to South Africa, or back to Cape Town. And it's there the next day where I'm like really beating myself up now. So the significance of the crucifix for me is it was actually my grandfather's. He left it for me after he passed away. And so now I'm really beating myself up thinking like, why did I not fight this scrawny little guy? I was clearly more muscular and stronger than him. I could have just tackled him and I could have taken back the crucifix. It would have been no big deal. And so no sooner as these thoughts are rushing through my head, my phone rings. I answer, hello? Hi, is this Ryan? Yeah, this is Ryan. This is Luke. I was the guy on the train who actually wrestled for the knife. I was like, oh my God! But you sort of saved my life, I think. Thank you so much. That's incredible. He said, no problem. Actually, we stayed on the train, a few of us, after the incident, and we heard you negotiating with the gentleman who stole your crucifix and heard of the significance, and so we looked for it, and we actually found it underneath one of the seats. I live in Rondebosch. Where do you live? And I lived in Rosebank, which is literally the neighboring community. Like I went grocery shopping there every once a week, and that's where I went to Catholic church, and it was literally a walk away. And so the next day I go to this gentleman's house. We exchanged the crucifix for a bottle of wine. We're now Facebook friends, and I got the crucifix back. And so I think the significance of this story, certainly I was in the frying pan for sure, and then into the fire. But I think the first point is fires can be extinguished. And the second point for me was I actually felt compassion for the guys who were involved in the incident, one who sort of set up the theft and the one who actually ended up stealing my crucifix. As you probably know, in South Africa, there's a great deal of poverty. This was during the rainy season, and unemployment is really high, almost nearly 50%. And so after a lot of reflection and thought about, why did I not fight this person, right? Why did I not act violently towards those who were perpetrating against me? And really the conclusion for me is, I acted in a compassionate way by not doing that, by giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I think, quite frankly, those guys were in a situation where stealing a crucifix, something with not that a great deal of value, was so important to them for their livelihoods. I have to assume that they had only the best intentions for their own survival. And so that, for me, I think those are a couple of the takeaways. And I think what's so significant is I learned this lesson through my grandfather after his passing, and through the crucifixion, which I think has a great deal of significance to my personal faith and to the faith of many others. So that's my story.